Hey guys. This is what if Naruto and Sasuke became friends a few years early. It was honestly kind of funny that all it took for the path of the ninja world to drastically change was Naruto Uzumaki falling down a hill. The boy at the dock helped him up, and their destined friendship began a few years early. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 1 Naruto. It was late, and Naruto was alone. This wasn't new, of course. Naruto was alone far more often than not. His only real relationships were with some of the other kids in his class, Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba. They, at the very least, actually allowed him to hang out with them, which Naruto supposed was something, given that most people who saw him treated him like a disease. He couldn't really call them friends though. They always left at the end of the day, when their parents came to get them, and Naruto was left behind, forgotten. Alone. He was walking next to a river that snaked through the middle of the Leaf Village. It was a relatively cool day, though it wasn't like he even changed his outfit to suit the weather. He watched without any real interest as hues of reds and oranges glittered across the surface of the water. It's pretty. Naruto couldn't help thinking. He saw him a second later. The black-haired boy who'd been the star of their class for as long as Naruto could remember was sat at the end of a pier. He was staring into the water with an aura of sadness hanging around him. He hadn't truly figured out what it was that happened. He struggled most days to finish his homework without Irika-sensei's help, let alone figure out a mystery with nothing but vague rumors, but he had been able to piece one thing together. Sasuke was different. He was quieter, though Naruto thought he'd maybe said 3 or 4 sentences in the entire time he'd known him, and more reserved, even if the only time Naruto had heard the boy raise his voice was when he'd accidentally set his pants on fire. And he would have gotten away with that one, had Irika-sensei not found the matchbox stashed in his desk. In hindsight, he really should have put it anywhere else. Despite their misgivings, Naruto didn't truly hate Sasuke, even with what he might have said to him. He was annoying, the same as all the other kids in his class who never really got to know him before they made their minds up about him. But indifference was still better than the looks of fear and disgust he got from many of the adults in the shopping district. So, yes, Sasuke annoyed Naruto, often more so than his other classmates, but he supposed that was to be expected. They might as well have been polar opposites. But all of a sudden, after having been absent from classes for nearly 2 weeks, Sasuke had returned, and he'd come back changed. Naruto hadn't liked him, the new kid who'd walked in that day and sat in Sasuke's seat. Sasuke seemed to hear his footsteps, his head swiveling up to gaze directly at him. The boy's curious eyes shifted almost instantly, narrowing until he was looking at Naruto with an annoyance that almost mirrored his own. They didn't speak as Naruto passed by Sasuke's position at the dock, and if Naruto had his way, they never would. He seemed sad. He was almost blown away that he'd thought that. He didn't care what Sasuke was going through, he just wanted to get home, eat some ramen, and sleep. Maybe I should talk to him. Naruto slowed. He was parallel with Sasuke now, the shadow the sun cast directly covering the boy on the dock. He kept walking. He didn't care, not about Sasuke. Maybe I should go down there. It didn't matter, he'd just forget about this tomorrow anyway. I should talk to him. He didn't. Naruto kept walking. Directly into a root. He was falling, that much Naruto knew for sure. It wasn't graceful, he was rolling end over end, trying desperately to regain his footing, to no avail. By the time he rolled to a stop at the bottom of the hill, a foot or so from the water, he was covered in dirt and grassy residue. Nothing felt injured, with the exception of his pride. He pushed himself up and sat cross-legged upon the earth. Are you okay? Naruto glanced in the voice's direction, but clearly the fall had jostled something in his brain, because he thought he just heard. Naruto? Sasuke had come over to check on him, and Naruto idly thought that nothing would ever truly surprise him again, because it seemed like Sasuke Uchiha actually cared if he'd been hurt. He held back a growl. He didn't want anyone, least of all Sasuke, to see him like this. "What's it to you?" Naruto shouted in response to Sasuke's earlier inquiry, feeling hot with anger and shame. Sasuke's concerned expression morphed into one of spite and bitterness at his words. "Nothing," the boy turned and walked away, sitting back down at the end of the wooden dock. "Forget I said anything." And now it was up to Naruto to feel bad about how he'd reacted, his own temper having gotten the best of him. He thought of how he could correct the situation, sitting there on the grassy hillside, maybe a few feet from Sasuke, as he studied the look on the young Uchiha's face. It wasn't sad, like he thought earlier. It was more empty. There wasn't anything there, not truly. The lifeless expression seemed to say that the boy was off somewhere else, barely present at all. It struck Naruto that he often wore a similar expression, as he passed by the crowds in the village, whispering about him just loud enough for him to be able to pick up what they were saying. It had hurt him so horribly, once upon a time, but he'd only been able to let words get to him for so long before he'd closed himself off from the world. Or before he'd raged against it with all his might. Until he'd grown spiteful and angry, and decided to take his anger out on them in a way he was sure they'd notice. Pulling pranks on the people who'd been mean to him. Forcing them to pay attention to him, to acknowledge him, it felt good. But it wasn't the same, either, the look on the boy's face. It wasn't like Naruto's, which had been slowly stripped away at, bits and pieces coming off until it was nothing. No, Sasuke's looked like it had been torn apart in one fell swoop. Ah. Naruto had blurted something out before he even knew what he wanted to say. He'd simply wanted to make that look go away, to make someone who felt like he did, just a bit. Sasuke turned to face him, though this time his eyes betrayed the fact that he wasn't listening to Naruto at all. "What do you want?" Once again, his cheeks felt hot. "Sorry." Sasuke's eyebrows rose, and some life returned to his face as he tilted his head. "What?" "I said I'm sorry, okay." Naruto's face was burning, his eyes closed. He couldn't bear to see Sasuke laugh at him, because of course he would. That was all anyone ever did when Naruto spoke. It's fine." Now it was Naruto's turn to be curious, and as he opened one of his eyes, he saw that Sasuke was once again looking down into the water. He didn't laugh? He'd been expecting the boy to snark at him, his voice filled with mirth. "Oh, you're apologizing? Whatever for, Naruto?" Before he really knew what he was doing, Naruto had walked over to the dock as well, and stood beside Sasuke. His classmates stared up at him, clearly annoyed to have been interrupted from his train of thought. "What do you want, loser?" Naruto's famously short temper exploded, and he immediately shouted at the boy below him. "Why, you little? Why don't I show you my shuriken jutsu I've been practicing, huh?" "Go ahead," Sasuke sneered out at him. "Even from here, it's not like you'd hit me." Naruto grounded his teeth together but found his anger dissipating. He momentarily felt that same rivalry he used to share with Sasuke, as one-sided as that had been, but the look in the boy's eye, that "I'm better than you" look that used to drive him crazy, it was no longer present. It had been replaced with a look of apathetic boredom. "What happened to you?" Sasuke whirled on him, his eyes widening slightly, as if the question was completely unfamiliar to him, or perhaps that Naruto was the last person he had expected to have asked him about it. "What?" He was angry, that much was clear, but Naruto pressed on regardless. He'd never been one for subtleties. "I heard the other kids talking about something. I tried to pick up as much as I could from them." He squinted his eyes, trying to think about what it was they'd said back then, even as it eluded him. "But no one would tell me what actually happened." He looked right at Sasuke, trying to decipher the truth from the boy's face. He found nothing there, just a harsh bitterness. "So I'm just some gossip piece then? I guess you want to be able to talk about me with them. Hell, you might even make a friend." Naruto was really trying his best to be nice to the boy beside him, but Sasuke wasn't helping his own case at all. "I'm just trying to figure it out, A second passed in silence. "You're?" He knew what he'd almost said, and why he'd stopped himself. Naruto had never been very good at talking about how he felt, or the way he viewed the world and everyone around him. Just this once, though. I'll try. It's really hard. He managed to push past his lips. Being alone. Sasuke's eyes widened ever so slightly, before narrowing a second or two later, the boy's face contorting with anger. What? Suddenly, Naruto felt his back hit the wooden dock, the wind having been knocked out of him. His head was pounding, and he felt the pain in the back of his skull worsen as the boy atop him forced it down onto the hardwood, his hand gripping Naruto's shirt as he snarled madly. What the hell would you know about being alone? He could hear them sometimes when he was laying down to rest, the voices of the people in the village, whispering names and insults at him as he walked down the streets, trying desperately to validate himself. He both loved and hated them. Sure, they were mean to him, refused to let him into their stores and stalls, but they didn't forget about him. They acknowledged his existence, for better or for worse. He made sure of that. It was all he had, after all. That hate was so much better than being forgotten. You said it yourself, didn't you? That I didn't have any friends? Sasuke didn't get off of him, and the grip on his shirt didn't loosen either. But the boy was watching him, waiting to hear what he'd say. I don't have anybody. The grip loosened minutely. I've never had anyone. Lord Third said my parents died the day I was born. Everyone in the village hates me, and I don't even know why. The hand on his shirt let go. Sometimes I stop and sit a while, and just think about how much it. He was pouring out his soul a little, but he liked to think his words were having some effect, so he kept going. How much it sucks to be alone. Sasuke was just sitting there now, hands at his sides as he straddled him. You looked like you were alone, too. The boy atop him said nothing as he dismounted him, having decided to sit down beside Naruto on the pier. He was looking out onto the river, and as Naruto himself sat up, he noted that the sun was a bit lower in the sky, causing the last lingering bits of daylight to crest across the water's surface. You're right. Naruto sat up, a foot or so away from where Sasuke was sitting with his back turned away from him. It was his turn to listen now, he thought, as the boy seemed to psyche himself up for something. Being alone is the worst hell of all. He didn't say anything more, even after Naruto waited for a few seconds, so he chose to stand up and walk to where the other kid was sitting. Sasuke was crying. Naruto sat next to him, not really knowing what to say. Luckily, Sasuke began of his own accord, his voice scratchy with emotion. 3 months ago, my brother murdered every single member of the Uchiha clan. I was the sole exception. Naruto had been expecting the worst, but that had still managed to surpass his wildest fantasies. He wasn't even showing me mercy, he just didn't bother killing me. Sasuke's fists and teeth clenched, his knuckles going white. I was too weak to be worth killing. Naruto had no clue what to say, he didn't think there was a good response to what Sasuke had said. He was trying desperately to think of something, anything to say. I miss them. It was a quieter voice, barely above a whisper. There are so many things. Sasuke was breaking down now, his voice quivering, tears flowing freely. So many things I want to say to them, I just wanted them to be there for me. Sasuke stopped speaking after that, and Naruto was left with the boy's small, hiccuping sobs, and the churning of the river beyond them. Even despite the awkward atmosphere, Naruto decided he'd wait and listen for Sasuke to speak up again, even if waiting and listening weren't exactly his strongest suits. It wasn't for a few more minutes that Sasuke did speak up again, and by then the sun had set fully, blanketing the two in darkness. I don't have any friends in class either, Sasuke said after he'd stopped crying. Everyone looks at me like I'm some animal exhibit at the zoo. Naruto almost laughed, because it felt like Sasuke had just described exactly how Naruto had always felt. Whenever he'd walked among the adults in the street, whispering to themselves when they thought he wasn't looking, he'd felt like an exotic creature, like he didn't belong. It suddenly clicked into place, the fact that they were so similar. It's settled then, Naruto shouted out, and it occurred to him when Sasuke jumped about a foot off the ground that he hadn't spoken a word in at least 15 minutes, and Sasuke may have forgotten he was there. What's settled? Naruto stood up and offered Sasuke his trademarked grin. I suppose you and I will just have to be friends. The suggestion didn't quite receive the resounding applause he'd been hoping for. You and me? Friends? The hell are you talking about, loser? Sasuke looked like he didn't quite know what to feel, caught in an odd emotional knot. Naruto had no such problems. He was perfectly capable of expressing himself. Would you stop calling me a loser, you loser? He wasn't quite angry with the boy, he wasn't sure he could be, after hearing all of that, but he couldn't deny being slightly exhausted with him. It's getting really old. Until you stop being a loser, Sasuke was standing, his hands balled into fists, and a monstrous pout on his face. He looked like he wanted to fight Naruto and hug him all at the same time. I won't stop calling you a loser. Naruto had been wrong. He was able to get angry at Sasuke quite easily. Grr, dummy. Idiot. Crybaby. That one seemed to really set Sasuke off because his cheeks were red. He inhaled deeply, and Naruto thought just for a moment that he was going to call him some incredibly horrible name. Dirty fox. And suddenly Naruto was just confused. He watched quizzically as Sasuke visibly deflated, looking down at the ground a bit sheepishly. Sorry. Sorry? Sorry for what? Sasuke looked borderline mortified. I'm sorry I called you that. I didn't know what it meant. He was fidgeting, like that time Kiba hit him, and his mom had dragged him into the classroom the next day to make him say he was sorry. The people in the village call you that sometimes. They did? He'd never heard them say that, and nothing came to mind when he thought of a fox, other than 2 red eyes and a snarling mouth he'd seen in a nightmare or 2 when he was younger. Probably nothing important. Naruto was at a loss, but figured he might as well milk this for all it was worth. Well, I'll forgive you, just this once. He paused dramatically, before a grin spread across his face. But only if you agree to be my friend. Naruto held out his right hand, offering it to the boy in front of him. Sasuke gave him a skeptical look, one which warped quickly into what might have been the first smile he'd seen on Sasuke's face in a few months. I guess that's fine. The black-haired boy reached out and grasped Naruto's hand in his own. They were both just children, trying to make their ways in an unforgiving world. In that moment, however, they both felt like they'd made a very small, very significant change. Class the next day was an odd affair. Everything seemed normal to the 3 or 4 students who arrived earlier than Sasuke Uchiha as the boy walked into the room that day. He sat by himself in the middle left row, taking the window seat, and began his usual routine of aimlessly staring outside. He was lost in his own little world within a minute. Things were normal. Most of the other children in the class filed in as per usual, going about their day-to-day activities, making fun of each other, gossiping, seeing how many rubber bands they could shoot at Shikamaru before he woke up, but everything changed when Naruto burst into the classroom. Not that him bursting in wasn't normal, because it was easily the most predictable part of the day. No, it was what the boy did upon entering that turned heads. He walked to the left of the room, and immediately took the seat next to lone Uchiha. Hey Sasuke! Naruto gave the other boy his trademark grin and started working on getting everything he needed for the day set up on his desk. Hey, can I borrow a pencil? I forgot one again. The boy in question didn't respond, but he did break out of his own head long enough to give Naruto a single, small meme of acknowledgement, reaching back and handing him a rather used object from his bag. Several students' eyes widened, but their gossiping was interrupted as Iruka-sensei arrived, opened the door, and greeted them with his traditional good morning, class. The students gave him a rather similar response. The morning passed by as normal. Iruka was giving them a very basic lesson on the natures of chakra, fire, water, earth, lightning, and wind. He also noted that some families had special chakra natures or skills unique to them. A good example of this, Iruka stated, as he was walking around the classroom, gesturing to a small diagram of an eye he'd made on the board, would be the Leaf's very own Hyuga clan. They have an inherited dojutsu known as the Byakugan. Naruto liked to pretend he knew what some of those words meant. Why, our very own Hinata is the heiress of the Hyuga clan. He gestured to a small, shy girl sitting in the front middle row. Hinata, do you know anything about the Byakugan? Naruto, along with the rest of the class, turned towards the Hyuga in the front row, and watched as she began to fidget, casting her eyes down at the table. I don't know all that much about it, sensei. Iruka seemed to realize the mistake he'd made, putting Hinata on the spot, as the nervous girl's face reddened, and she tried to make herself smaller in her chair. My apologies, Hinata, Iruka smiled gently, and the smaller girl seemed to sit up ever so slightly. Here I am, trying to pass off my duties as a teacher. How lazy of me. He got a few laughs for that, including a light giggle from Hinata herself, and she wasn't hiding herself in her seat quite so much anymore. Naruto thought she was cute when she laughed. He liked the sound of it. He was daydreaming now, remembering when he ran in front of her to stop her getting bullied, something he'd had a lot of experience dealing with, and how they'd just beat him up instead. They'd even ripped the scarf he'd been wearing. He'd gotten a cold later that day from its absence. Hinata herself, however, had been nice to him, going as far as to thank him. He hadn't shown it at the time, but it had meant a lot to him. She was just about the only person who'd ever been kind to him. Naruto, did you hear me? And suddenly he realized that everyone was looking right at him, snickering to themselves, and Iruka was giving him that look that said he was annoyed, sure, but mostly just disappointed in him. He hated that look, more than anything. He tried to remember what it was that Iruka-sensei was saying, but all he was getting was the lecture he received after he had nearly broken his leg trying to do a backflip off the playground's jungle gym. It's fire. Naruto glanced beside him, to where the whisper had come from, and was surprised to find Sasuke Uchiha, hands crossed in front of his mouth, trying to act inconspicuous. He wasn't sure if he should trust Sasuke. This could all be a trick. After all, just yesterday afternoon they had been bitter rivals, intent on grinding each other into the dirt. But hey, Naruto thought, better than nothing. It's fire, Iruka-sensei. His teacher's expression instantly became one of surprise, and then, with an odd sense of pride, he smiled. Yes, Naruto, that's correct. He walked over to the board, and wrote out 2 words, and an arrow connecting them. Wind's natural counter is fire, as Naruto pointed out for us. Even if he hadn't really come up with it himself, Naruto couldn't help the swell of pride in himself at hearing those words, along with the surprised and slightly disappointed looks of his classmates. They probably hoped to see him make a fool of himself. Naruto turned to the boy sitting next to him and smiled widely. Thanks, Sasuke. The other boy didn't say anything, but he did give him a small, almost invisible smile. It was late, but for once, Naruto wasn't alone. He was walking just a bit ahead of Sasuke, as they crossed through the middle of the village's shopping center. This time in the evening, there was the most traffic of the day, as people were getting off of work, or coming back from missions, and coming here to eat, shop, or run errands. Naruto was excited. He never walked with a friend, even if it was just to the small Uchiha's new apartment that Lord Third had rented out for him, thinking correctly that it was probably best for Sasuke not to have to live in the house his parents were murdered in. I know this really great place, oh man. Their ramen is the best, you've gotta try it. Naruto skipped ahead a little and turned back around to gauge Sasuke's response. The boy had this look on his face that screamed that he was uncomfortable, and even in his excitement, Naruto couldn't miss it. I'm a little tired. Sasuke's voice was quiet, like he felt a little bit bad about what he said. Naruto had never been very good at picking up on social cues, but even he could catch that one. He frowned slightly. Ichiraku was only a few minutes from where they were, and it was in the direction they were going, so it wouldn't exactly be a huge detour. But if Sasuke really didn't want to, well, Naruto didn't want to force him or anything, especially since they were just getting to know each other. He was just about ready to give up and skip the ramen tonight when he felt something wet drip down his back. Whoops, sorry kid, it was a ninja, at least Chunin, if the vest were to be believed, and he just poured his drink all over Naruto. Looks like I need to be more careful. The ninja's friend beside him made no effort to conceal his snorting laugh. Naruto wasn't really sure what to do. Sasuke had never seen him get bullied, hell, he was pretty sure no one from his class had, and if he'd thought it was humiliating alone, it was nothing compared to this. He found anger pouring through him, an anger that charged him, gave him strength. He turned back towards the two ninjas and bared his teeth at them. He wasn't really sure why he took on such an animalistic expression, but it had come to him more on instinct than anything. The two Chunin, who'd previously been laughing and pointing at him, now shirked away, a small bit of fear on their faces. Hey. Drink guy's friend sputtered out. The hell do you think you're doing? PSH, K-Kid's no fun. Drink guy shouted just a bit too forcefully, turning around and gesturing for his friend. Come on. Right. The two disappeared into the crowd around them without another word, and Naruto was left to process what he just experienced on his own. Why is everyone so afraid of me? He couldn't help wanting to shout, to run up and ask every single person who was walking by. Why do they run away, and call me names under their breath? Why do they pour drinks on me, and refuse to let me buy from their stalls? Why does everyone avoid me like I'm some disease? He found himself growing more and more upset, until a voice called out to him, snapping him out of his head. Naruto? He turned around, remembering that he'd been traveling with someone. The voice had been Sasuke's. Quiet, like he didn't want to set Naruto off, but also firm, like couldn't bear to see him like this either. I'd like to go to that ramen place, if that's alright with you. His eyes widened, for even he, a kid not even a decade old, could tell that Sasuke was trying to make him feel better. And suddenly Naruto's smile had reappeared, perhaps slightly dimmer than before, but no less real. That sounds awesome. Sasuke hadn't been sure what to expect of a place that Naruto would frequent, but it certainly hadn't been Ichiraku. It was quaint, in the kind of way a larger, more well-rounded shop could never hope to be, and Sasuke found himself charmed almost immediately with the place, as the older gentleman behind the counter turned around and gave the two of them a bright smile. Good to see you, Naruto. A young girl called out from the back of the shop. Sasuke guessed that she was working on the ramen. He didn't actually know, he'd never been to a ramen shop, nor had he ever been any good at doing new things or breaking out of his shell. He was going to make an effort though, just this once, so that Naruto wouldn't be too down about those people earlier. That perpetual smile on Naruto's face was fake, Sasuke knew that, but he tried to keep it there as long as he could. The boy didn't look right without it. Hey sis! Naruto climbed into one of the 6 or so stools set up in front of the counter, and Sasuke did the same. Hey old man! The chef didn't chafe at Naruto's words, and instead seemed to smile wider. He finished washing a cup, placed it somewhere in the back, and stood in front of the two of them. Evening Naruto! He looked at Sasuke appraisingly, and seemed unsure what to make of him. I see you've brought a friend? There was both a hint of surprise and a note of optimism in the statement that Sasuke was able to catch, like he'd never expected Naruto to have any friends, but was happy for him nonetheless. Yeah. This is Sasuke. He's in my class. Sasuke didn't miss the faint recognition in the man's eyes as they darted towards him, and then quickly moved away. The girl in the back had halted her movements as well, but continued the moment after. Sasuke hadn't missed that either. Yes, he thought, I was the one in all the papers. He didn't say that though. He'd never been very outspoken, certainly nothing like Naruto, though in his case that may have been more obliviousness than any conscious effort. Nice to meet you, was all that Sasuke was able to squeeze out, and the man in front of him adopted a pitying expression. He hated it. Hated it more than anything. He wasn't really sure why he came here, this was what always happened. Next thing he knew, he'd be given a complimentary bowl of ramen, and perhaps he'd like to take one more home with him, because of course he was too young to be living alone, and he must not be able to cook for himself, and… Oi, old man! Naruto's voice snapped Sasuke out of his thoughts, and he looked over to see what the boy could be on about now. Probably just ordering his food, Sasuke mused. Sasuke doesn't like being looked at like that. Just treat him like normal. It seemed as if the tension in the air had both doubled and broken all at once. Why is it he's only ever perceptive when it's mortifying for me? The chef, to his credit, seemed to catch on to his prior mistake, and regarded the both of them in a different way, sizing them up, before his face returned to that same bright smile he'd had before. My apologies, young Sasuke. He brushed his apron down and bowed ever so slightly, in a way that seemed to hurt his back, but if the expression on his face said anything to Sasuke, it was that he never let that stop him. It wouldn't do for my customers to be uncomfortable. Please excuse my discourtesy. Sasuke fought the urge to immediately apologize. He lost. It's fine, really. I get those looks everywhere I go. It's nothing memorable. But you see, sir, as the owner of an establishment such as this, the girl who made the ramen came out to the front and sat 2 bowls of identical fillings in front of Naruto and Sasuke, and the smell alone nearly made him drool. I am looking to be remembered. Sasuke liked this place, he decided, on his first taste of the light noodles, along with the rich, but not too rich broth. Sasuke would be coming back to Ichiraku, he decided, on his 4th or so breath for air, about halfway through the bowl. Naruto had already finished, chatting loudly with the old chef, whose name he still didn't know, about being able to answer a question in class, and how Iruka-sensei had been so proud of him. A part of him wanted to remind Naruto that it was him who had given him the help he needed, but Sasuke viciously squashed that part of himself, and instead quietly listened to their conversation, interjecting only when directly addressed, as minutes turned to hours, and the sun set. It was dark out when Naruto finally got out of his stool, thanked the old man behind the counter, and left behind payment for both his and Sasuke's bowls. He wasn't even given the time to protest this, as he got pulled out of the small shop by Naruto. Almost immediately, however, he heard someone call for them, and turned around to see the owner of Ichiraku, holding a bowl of ramen in his hands. It was steaming, evidently brand new. Naruto looked back over at him, but Sasuke waved him off, saying that he'd just be a second. He already knew what was coming when the old man slowly handed him the full bowl of ramen. It was something he'd been getting used to, recently, the sympathy of others. It was stifling, and embarrassing, and it angered him to no end. This man had made efforts to be understanding to him, however, so Sasuke would try and come to a compromise. I'm sorry, sir, Sasuke stated, as bluntly as possible, but I don't like to accept gifts out of charity. The older man seemed to slump a bit. He must have been expecting this, but thought that he still had to try. That ate at Sasuke, just a little. Oh, fine. Just this once. Sasuke held out his hand, filled with around 1,000 yen. I'd like to pay for it, if that's fine. The proprietor looked almost shocked, before his expression changed. He smiled at Sasuke, looking a bit proud. All right, he held out his left hand. That'll be 300 yen then. Sasuke handed over the money and took the bowl of ramen. He mumbled a quiet thanks as he rounded the corner towards his house, finally catching up with Naruto. What was that all about? Naruto greeted him, before he saw what was in his hands. He never lets me get anything after closing. That dirty old man. Sasuke can't suppress his smile, or the teasing voice that comes out after. Well, of course. Naruto looked over, like Sasuke might give him the secret to obtaining late-night Ichiraku. I can do shuriken jutsu. Naruto bristled, his hand shot out and pointed at him, and he screamed out into the night. What does that have to do with anything, you jerk? Sasuke couldn't help the small laugh that tumbled out of him. It wasn't quite full, just a mirth-filled moment spent between friends. Were he and Naruto friends? Sasuke wasn't sure. He certainly didn't mind Naruto's company, and he had introduced him to Ichiraku, which certainly earned him some points. He smiled more around Naruto. He liked watching Naruto smile. We could certainly be friends, Sasuke thought. I'll just have to give it time. While Sasuke was thinking about this and that on his and Naruto's long journey, he barely avoided tripping over a fallen plank of wood, almost dropping his ramen in the process. He'd nearly forgotten, what with the relaxing atmosphere of the cool evening air, but the Ichiraku owner had tried to trick him. The old man probably thought he was being slick, too, Sasuke thought. But he had been paying attention while he'd been sitting at the counter. He'd had nothing to do whilst listening to Naruto's conversations with the father and daughter duo other than to look at the menu, posted on the wall. He'd taken note of one particularly interesting fact. The ramen there was supposed to be 700 yen. Sasuke sighed. He was smiling soon after. It's a start. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I'm going to be Hokage. Several students sighed as the golden-haired boy repeated his mantra for what must have been the 1000th time. It had been something to make fun of at the start, a hilarious joke, and they didn't even have to come up with it. Naruto had given it to them for free. But after a few months, and more than enough teasing to last several lifetimes, every member of the class was just ready for Naruto to stop saying it. Surely he would, one of these days. Sasuke had his doubts. Yes, Naruto, even Iruka-sensei, who normally tried his utmost to be kind and supportive, had been getting a little tired of it, we've heard. The young teacher turned to the rest of the class and began reciting something off of a clipboard. Naruto had just lost his training match against Shino Aburame, and Sasuke felt no one could blame him for that one. The boy had, after all, summoned a couple hundred bugs from within his own skin. And even then Naruto still had the gall to announce that he would defeat him. It hadn't gone well, in Sasuke's opinion, but he couldn't help but admire the attempt. On one hand, he thought that without an area of effect type jutsu like Sasuke's fireball, Naruto never really stood a chance against such a swarm. On the other hand, he couldn't not tease Naruto about it, just a little. You've got bugs in your hair, Sasuke said, trying to keep his visage serious. Aya. Predictably, Naruto immediately started jumping in place, scratching into his scalp. Get them off me! Shino, get your crappy bugs off of me! Shino's eyes narrowed, or at least, Sasuke assumed they did, not that he could see past the black goggles on the other boy's face. My bugs are not crappy, nor are any of my beetles present on your person. Naruto paused for a second. Speak normally. Shino sighed dramatically, before replying. None of my very useful bugs are on you. But Sasuke said. Naruto turned around to look at him, and Sasuke tried desperately to keep it together, thought evidently it wasn't going too well. Dang it, Sasuke! Naruto was clearly annoyed, and he walked up next to him, arms crossed. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sasuke tried not to laugh, even if he was vibrating slightly, there were just some in your hair. He was restraining himself now. You got them though, you definitely got them. A small snicker broke through his defenses, and the makeshift walls he'd put up exploded as he laughed at Naruto's expense. He failed to hold it together, ultimately, but Sasuke liked to think he'd put up a good fight. That's enough, you three. Iruka-sensei's commanding voice put a stop to any rebuttal Naruto may have had, but the boy did fix Sasuke with a particularly nasty pout. Would anyone like to volunteer to fight next? I'll do it. You can't go twice in a row, Naruto. Despite himself, Sasuke reached out and patted the boy on the shoulder. He might have teased him, but their relationship had been getting better since the incident at the docks a few weeks prior, and he didn't like seeing Naruto down. Sorry about that, I was kidding. He whispered quietly to the boy beside him, trying to keep his voice down so that Iruka wouldn't hear them. Naruto continued to pout at him for a few more seconds, but then, like the sun on a cloudy day, his smile shone back through. It's fine, the boy's expression became devious, and he narrowed his eyes, especially since I'm going to beat you later anyways. Sasuke knew he was being baited, that much was obvious. He had, however, never been very good at not rising to said baits, turning to look at Naruto with a devilish smirk. Okay, Sasuke turned back to the arena, where two girls, whose names he was sure he should have known, were fighting. I'll ask you later how that went for you. One of them, the girl with blonde hair, struck out at the other pink-haired girl. It wasn't an effective attack, given that it wasn't backed up by any form or style, and was easily dodged. It would have been a good opportunity for a counter, had he been in the arena, a fairly easy way to end the battle. The other girl present, however, didn't seem to see that, as she returned with her own attack just as clumsily as the first had been delivered, and allowed the blonde to escape. The two went on like that for a while, until finally, the blonde-haired girl managed to down her opponent with a full-body tackle. "The winner is Ino," Iruka-sensei declared as he walked into the center of the ring, helping both girls to get to their feet. "Well done, the both of you." He gave them the same words he gave everyone after every fight, regardless of how well they'd done. Sasuke didn't feel like these two deserved any praise for the performance they'd put on, but he wasn't going to say that out loud. "Alright, this will be our second to last match. Who would like to fight next?" "Ooh." Naruto was jumping up and down on the spot. "Me. Me. Pick me, sensei." Iruka sighed, looking around the schoolyard. "Would anyone else like to volunteer, seeing as how Naruto has already fought once today?" No one raised their hands. "Ugh, fine. Come on, Naruto." "Yeah." As Naruto made his way into the center of the ring, Sasuke's eyes instead turned to the blonde-haired girl who just fought, currently making her way across the schoolyard towards him. What had Iruka-sensei said her name was again? Oh right, Sasuke thought, her name is Ino. She'd been trying to get him to like her for a few months now. He groaned internally, knowing there was no way this was going to be fun. "Did you see that, Sasuke?" she said with a rosy face, her hands at her hips. "That win was for you." Maybe, by being completely silent and not moving, Ino would think he'd disappeared. "Sasuke?" Okay, so plan A was a bust. He needed a new plan. What was the fastest way to get rid of her, without actually having to say or do anything stupid? Tell her to get out of his face? Well, that would certainly work, and he was about half a second away from saying that when something odd happened. A tiny voice somewhere in his mind, that sounded vaguely like a certain loud-mouthed friend he had, told him that that would be mean. He'd never really thought about it before, what with the intense revenge plotting sessions he liked to hold during class, but the girls he dismissed always seemed to look a bit disappointed when he sent them away. Another voice somewhere in Sasuke's mind, which sounded annoying, a lot like himself, said that he shouldn't really care if he was being mean. He had more important things to think about than puppy crushes and schoolgirl dreams. Things like evil brothers, overly obnoxious blondes, and tomatoes. Besides, what was he even supposed to do other than tell them to go away? Sasuke had never really diversified his profile beyond that. Be nice. Sasuke was a bit embarrassed to admit that he didn't have any real experience with that. Even before his family's deaths, he'd been at best an antisocial loner. But, well, I'll try. Thanks. The words sounded forced even to him, and as he brought his hand up and gave her what may have been the weakest thumbs up of all time, along with a smile that looked like he was standing on a paper bomb, he couldn't help wishing that he'd spontaneously combust. What did he say now? What the heck did he say now? Glad? Not that. Well, it was over, not even this girl in front of him, who had managed to misconstrue him telling her to leave him alone about 400 times as him being shy, would ever fall for that. Yee! Ino squealed at the top of her lungs, and the expression on her face was one Sasuke could only describe as pure joy. She immediately ran off towards her circle of friends and began loudly retelling the events that had just transpired, though from what he could make out, Sasuke had the suspicion that it may have been slightly exaggerated. Honestly, Sasuke thought, I should have just told her to leave me alone again. He wasn't really sure why he hadn't, other than that annoying voice in his head told him he shouldn't, which in hindsight seemed like a dumb reason. Still, Sasuke noted, that felt strangely good. He also felt like he needed to sleep, though given that it was 10 in the morning, and he had only just woken up a few hours ago, he felt the chances of that were rather low. Idly, he noticed that the pink-haired girl Ino had been fighting in the mock duel was in that group as well, though she seemed to hang back a little further than the rest. What was her name again? Sakura or something? That sounded vaguely correct. Sakura turned towards him, and he immediately looked away, hoping beyond all hope she hadn't noticed him staring. The last thing he wanted was her misinterpreting that as his undying love or something. A few seconds later, he checked to see if she'd gone back to talking with her friends. Oh gods, she was walking over to him. The pink-haired girl mumbled the second she walked up to him. I'm sorry, Sasuke. He couldn't imagine what she'd be sorry about, unless it was for constantly bothering him during class, in which case he would be glad to accept her apology, and then to have her get away from him as fast as. I was trying to win that one for you, as well, but I really blew it. Sakura had tears in her eyes, and instantly Sasuke felt terrible. She was clearly trying quite hard to avoid crying, her hands balled into tiny fists, and her lip quivering. The tears in her eyes didn't fall, but they were growing larger, threatening to spill over. He wanted to make them go away, altogether. Unfortunately, he still wasn't very good at this whole being nice to people thing. But he would try again, because he knew Naruto would have. Sakura? The girl looked surprised when her eyes met his, and Sasuke fidgeted under the attention. He wouldn't let it get to him, though. He had to say something to help her right now. Great start, your fight was. Bad, it was bad, really good, I thought you did. And stick the landing, well? Somewhere, off in the distance, Sasuke thought he could hear his pride let out an otherworldly screech as it died a painful death. He looked at Sakura, trying to inspect the damage he'd caused with his uplifting, genius speech, and found her staring at him, slack-jawed. Okay, so maybe he could salvage this. Now all he had to do was make his escape when she ran back to her friends, and then commit ritual suicide when he arrived home. Perhaps his honor would recover then. Strange though, he'd really expected Sakura to have said something by now, even if said thing was professing her love for him, which would have annoyed him to no end. He looked back to her, and saw that she hadn't moved an inch, nor had her expression changed. Sakura? Hey, Sasuke! Naruto came jumping up beside them, kicking up a cloud of dirt. Did you see my fight? I won! Wait, seriously? Naruto never wins. Yeah, of course you won, Naruto. Now Ino had walked back over, though Sasuke noticed that she still had a hint of her earlier joyous expression on her face. You were fighting Hinata. Oh, that explains that. So? Naruto crossed his arms, seemingly offended. A win's a win. Naruto, your only wins are against Hinata and Shikamaru. Ino put her hands together in front of her face, like she was trying to explain a math problem to an infant. Hinata never fights you seriously, and Shikamaru literally concedes the second the match starts. That's... By the way, Ino turned away from Naruto, ignoring the boy's attempt at a rebuttal entirely, and towards Sasuke and Sakura. You've been surprisingly quiet, Sakura, what's up with you? The girl in question continued to stare blankly into the middle distance, and at this point Sasuke was becoming a little concerned. Ino walked to stand beside Sakura and waved her hand above the girl's eyes a few times, before she snickered, and turned towards their teacher. Sensei! Sakura fainted. She did what? As Sasuke lay down in his bed that night, he couldn't help the small smile on his face. It had been an exhausting day, fraught with girls, embarrassment, and, to his horror, social interaction. Still, it had also been a day where he'd stepped out of his comfort zone, tried something new, and had it work out for him. How the hell does Naruto do it? Sasuke couldn't help but ask, as he felt his eyelids growing heavy already. I talked to a couple of people and I felt like my head was going to explode, yet all he does is scream out and draw attention to himself. All day, every day, without end. Honestly, Sasuke thought he would rather die. Still though, things were going better lately. He managed to talk to a few kids in his class without pushing them all away from him, and they seemed to be, kind of alright, all things considered. He smiled lightly, content to think about this some more in the morning. He shut his eyes. Foolish little brother, if you wish to kill me, then hate me, detest me, curse me, and survive in an unsightly way. Run, and cling to your pitiful life. Suddenly, any and all happy thoughts were snatched violently from his mind, and all that remained were his brother's words. Oh, he hated him all right, detested him, and cursed him every night since then, all just to grow strong enough to kill him. Honestly, he'd only stopped thinking about Itachi. Wait, Sasuke thought, what was it that made me stop thinking about him? The answer came to him a second later. He had barely had time to think about it at all. Naruto. That boy, no matter how strange he was, nor how loud he yelled, or however many times he shouted out that he would become Hokage, had undoubtedly brightened up his last few weeks. Even just now, thinking about him led to thoughts of his brother being pushed away, back to the darkest recesses of his mind, which, until recently, had been festering, growing larger and larger, threatening to consume him whole. Being friends with Naruto, laughing with him and teasing him, being kind to everyone in his class, maybe even getting to know more of them, he'd only just gotten to try all of it, and for the first time in a few months, he finally felt like he could smile again. But all of that was holding back his desire for revenge. And Sasuke didn't know how to feel about that. Sure, they were all nice things, talking and laughing with everyone else like he was some normal kid, who would be given the chance to live a normal life. But Sasuke Uchiha was not a normal child, he was an avenger, chosen by the murderer of their clan to be a deliverer of justice. He had no time to worry about the gossip of his peers, or what kind of clothing was considered stylish, or what funny thing Naruto would say next that would light up his entire day. Even if that was all he wanted to do. A knock on his door kicked him out of his own head, and nearly spiraling onto the floor, though Sasuke did manage to recover before he fell out of his bed. Who would be coming by at this hour? Actually, he was fairly sure he already knew, and he did his best to fake a tired sigh as he made his way over to the door. He felt it would have been more convincing had he not been grinning from ear to ear. Naruto, do you have any idea what time it is? The boy standing just beyond his doorway looked at him in mild confusion, before he looked at the clock that was hanging on Sasuke's wall and seemed to grow even more bewildered. About 6 o'clock, in the evening? Alright, so apparently social interaction had indeed taken all of his energy for the day. I was just going to ask if you wanted to go to a Chiraku. Naruto rubbed the back of his head a bit sheepishly, but if you were, he looked straight at Sasuke and squinted, like he was inspecting some weird bug he'd found, sleeping, or something, then that's fine. Honestly, that sounded like a fun night, and a nice way to spend some time with Naruto, while still being able to relax and unwind. He took one step forward, and felt an invisible, intangible hand grasp onto his shoulder. It was trying desperately to pull him back into his dark room. It was bony and cold, like a dead body that had started to decay. It promised revenge, Itachi's death, assuredly. It promised a world where the Uchiha could have their name restored, and one in which their slaughter would be avenged. It promised him loneliness, sadness, and solitude. He felt that, if Naruto hadn't fallen down that hill those weeks ago, then the choice probably would have been an easy one to make. He'd have taken the path that led straight to his revenge, the darker path, where he never felt anything other than his desire to kill Itachi. But now, he saw a different hand in front of him, one real, and waiting for him, completely sure that Sasuke would reach out with his own to take it. Honestly, to put that much blind faith into him, whoever was offering their hand was clearly a complete fool. Yes, definitely. A fool through and through. A loud-mouthed, obnoxious, hopelessly overconfident fool. A fool he was glad to be able to call his friend. He didn't hesitate, he extended his own hand, and Naruto's face exploded into that sun-like expression as their hands met. As he took the final step out of his door, he felt the hand on his shoulder slip off of him, and slink back away into the darkness. It promised him that it would always stay with him, waiting to see if he'd ever choose to join their hands together. Until then, it would wait, for him to come crawling back. Sasuke smiled as he closed the door and twisted his key to lock it. He turned back towards Naruto and followed him. Thank you for everything, Sasuke thought, his head clearer than it had been in months. But I won't be needing you. Chapter 3 Sakura. Not for the first time that night, Sakura let out a pained whine. Ino, her best and really only friend, decided that this was apparently hilarious, despite Sakura fixing the girl a glare that she was fairly sure would have killed anyone else. Honestly, Sakura, her friend set down her bowl of ramen, her eyes dancing with barely concealed mirth. There isn't much you can do about it now. She slurped up a few noodles, taking a moment to savor them, before she continued. Besides, I'm not even sure what you're that worried about. Ino, despite her constant teasing, had been doing her best to help her not think too much about what had happened with Sasuke earlier today, but Ino, I actually fainted in front of him. Her friend winced. Oh yeah, right? Sakura once again felt herself whining unconsciously, her head falling into her hands. Her ramen lay in front of her, though she had barely eaten any of it, so distressed was she. Come on, Sakura. Her friend placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to ignore the groans Sakura let out. Cheer up. That seemed like extremely helpful advice, and immediately she knew that Ino would one day become a licensed psychiatrist. Is everything alright, you two? She heard the ramen chef beyond the counter ask them. Oh, she's fine, just guy troubles. Oh no, that's cool, Ino, Sakura thought, just tell everyone why don't you? Sakura made a mental note to get back at her friend for that one later. Sighing with the entire weight of her 9 years, she looked around the small, rickety shop they inhabited, and couldn't help but ask, why are we here, again, exactly? Because it was close, Ino began, finishing off her bowl of ramen with a small slurp. And because I, personally, am a big fan. Isn't this like Naruto's favorite spot? The old man in the back stiffened slightly, perhaps mildly interested in their conversation. I don't know, I've never asked him. Ah, that makes sense. I pass by on my way home some days, and Naruto's here more often than not. Are you all Naruto's friends? It was the shop owner, walking over to the counter and smiling down at them. He looked pleased at the idea, and Sakura couldn't help but cringe slightly, knowing the news he'd receive wouldn't be what he'd hoped. Hey, not exactly. The man's cheer didn't disappear, but he did seem far more sedated than he had before. He picked up Ino's bowl, now empty, and started to wash it under one of the sinks. Ah, that's a shame. The man seemed genuinely disappointed but looked towards them again as he placed Ino's bowl into the sink. He's a good kid, though, you should talk to him sometime. Yeah, we're not really in. Ino seemed to struggle to find the right words, and Sakura felt some slight amusement when her friend turned towards her, with a pleading expression on her face, asking her nonverbally for assistance. Sakura's entire world lit up. She hadn't expected her chance to come so soon, and with a slightly vicious glee, she feigned confusion. What's wrong, Ino? Weren't you going to say something? Her friend stared at her, betrayed, and then back to the proprietor, who now looked to be waiting on an answer from the blonde-haired girl. Maybe that'll teach you not to make fun of me for 5 hours and think I'll just let it go. Ino looked directly into her eyes, gazed into the blackest depths of her soul, mouthed, I'll get you for this, and started talking. Well, Naruto's not the nicest kid in our class. Ino seemed to shrink in on herself as she said it, likely because of the not-so-kind look the older shop owner now gave her. So, no one really wants to be his friend. The proprietor sighed wearily, and then spoke softly. I won't pretend to know everything there is to know, miss, but... He looked downtrodden, and when he continued, it was with a far quieter voice than before. I believe Naruto is overcompensating for something with his actions. What do you mean? Sakura was almost surprised to find that it was her who spoke, but upon thinking further about it, she wasn't surprised at all. It was obvious that she would want to find out more about the boy. After all, Sakura thought, he's the reason Sasuke's been acting so weird. Not weird, as in bad, but weird, as in this person has up until now never once behaved like this. Sasuke had actually told her that he thought she fought well. She hadn't just fainted from a compliment from her crush, okay, so it was mostly that she'd also been shocked he'd say such a thing. Honestly, when Ino had come over and loudly told them all about how Sasuke had been glad about her fight, very few of them had actually believed her. How could they? After all, the boy had done nothing but rebuke them for nearly 4 months. For him to so suddenly be willing to hear from them, heck, not just willing, but to actively encourage them? Clearly, the ninja world had gone mad. I think, the ramen chef started, breaking her out of her own head. Oh, right, Sakura thought, I asked a question. That Naruto masks how he feels with shouted words and feigned aggression. Well, yeah, it was Ino this time, interjecting into what the man was saying. We all know that we're not stupid. But really, deep down, whether the man had ignored Ino entirely, or just chose to continue what he'd been saying despite her, Sakura couldn't tell, but it still made her laugh when the girl beside her bristled in annoyance. I just think he used to be really lonely. Used to be? The old man turned towards her once more, the smile on his now returning. He's been doing better lately. I think making friends with Mr. Sasuke has been very good for him. Hearing one of her classmates called a Mr. briefly threw Sakura off her rhythm, but her friend Ino had no such problems. Yeah, what's up with that exactly? They hated each other not 3 weeks ago, and now they're all buddy-buddy. It is kind of weird, Sakura admitted with an apologetic look to the shopkeeper, trying to keep her friend's poorly chosen words from offending him. He didn't seem offended at all, and instead responded, Naruto actually told me the story behind that. Now that had her curious, and she turned to see Ino feeling much the same. Oh, but it wouldn't do for me to tell it without his permission. The old man pulled himself away from the table, smiling wryly. I suppose you just have to ask Naruto yourselves. Ugh, and they'd come this close to solving the mystery. She'd have to ask Naruto about it later, which didn't sound as terrible as it would have a few weeks back. He hadn't mellowed out, per se, he'd just been in a better mood. Ask me what? Or maybe, Sakura thought, as she turned around to see the young Uzumaki stood before her, I'll ask him now. And Sasuke was here. Oh. Okay, don't panic. This is fine. I'm fine. Sasuke took a look around, turned towards her, and gave her a small nod. Critical systems failing. Sakura shutting down in. Oh, come on, Sakura. Ino pulled her mind back to reality, her hand also pulling Sakura back onto her stool. He literally nodded at you. How could she not understand that this was the second best thing to ever happen to her? Oh, hey Sakura, Naruto waved a hand at the two of them, a residual smile still on his face from when he'd greeted the Ichiraki duo. Hey Ino. Sasuke now gave Ino a nod, and somehow the girl not only managed to avoid fainting, but also waved back and smiled daintily. Life was truly unfair. So Ino began, after Naruto finished recounting the start of his and Sasuke's unlikely friendship. You fell down a hill, and then just decided to be friends. Naruto put a hand on his chin, squinted, and seemed to be in deep thought, before he unwound instantly, smiling in a bit of a dumb way. Pretty much, yeah? Why did I expect anything else? What? Nothing. Ino sighed. They sat in an uncomfortable silence as the two boys polished off the last of their ramen. It was a bit of an odd thing, but Sakura noticed that Sasuke seemed to have the same enthusiasm for it as Naruto. Honestly, Sakura had no idea what to do or say about the boy. Though he'd always been crass, loud, and obnoxious, she felt she had overreacted at times when talking to him, going so far as to bully him along with some of the other students. She'd wanted to fit in, after all, and if it was what everyone else was doing? She'd done whatever she could to make friends, even if it was pushing others down. By the time her morals caught up to her, she was left in no position to talk to him, and with no friends other than Ino to her name. Oh sure, they included her, let her hang out with them, but that was only because Ino made them. Sakura wasn't stupid, despite what some may say. She could read between the lines of their less than subtle glares, or their talking behind her back. The weeks since Naruto's and Sasuke's friendship had been weird though. Some of the girls who only really liked Sasuke for his mysterious and bad boy attitude had lost interest, and it was really only her, Ino, and 2 or 3 other girls who still held their crushes. It had also, incidentally, helped her see a different side of Naruto. He could be just as supportive to Sasuke as Ino had been to her, often trying to bring the boy out of his shell. He challenged him to spars most days, and even volunteered him, unwillingly, to spar against others, always cheering for him when he fought, even if the boy didn't need it. Before, she wouldn't have dared apologize to Naruto, even if she'd felt bad. She was convinced he would have just blown up in her face or played some mean prank on her. Now though? Now she was determined to work up the courage to talk to him, to apologize, maybe even make a friend. So, Sasuke, it was Ino, and Sakura mentally thanked her friend for trying to start up a conversation, being more outgoing than she'd ever be. What did you think about Sakura fainting earlier? I take back my thanks, Sakura thought, nearly growling. I'll have my vengeance, Ino. Sasuke seemed unable to think of anything to say, instead looking towards Naruto, who gave the boy a small shrug, as if to say, I've got nothing. It was fine. Ino sighed, seemingly disappointed, and Sakura couldn't hide the vicious smirk she shot at her friend. Ino caught it, returning it with narrowed eyes and a small humph. I should apologize to Naruto. Yes, that was all well and good, but the problem was she and Naruto were on opposite ends of the table, with Ino and Sasuke between them, which made having a heartfelt discussion about past mistakes a little difficult. There was an empty chair beside Naruto though. It wouldn't be too hard to walk over and start talking, even if it would draw attention to her. She sighed, working up the courage. I owe it to him. She stood up without warning, and though Ino asked where she was going as she passed behind them, the girl stopped altogether when she sat down next to Naruto. Hey Sakura. He waved his hand awkwardly. Hey Naruto. She wasn't quite sure how to start this long-needed talk, even if she knew what she wanted to say. It was, frankly, a bit humiliating to have to come out and admit your faults, and even if she knew she'd feel better for doing it, it didn't make starting the conversation any easier. Well, best start simple. I felt like I needed to talk to you about some things. She begun, trying to keep any traces of nervousness out of her voice, though she didn't have too much success. Hey, Sasuke, Ino's voice shook her out of her thoughts, and she turned her head to look at her friend. There's this really cool flower stall a few buildings down. Would you come look at it with me? Sasuke seemed to get the hint, for he rose without any fuss and walked out next to Ino. Normally Sakura would have been upset with her for having asked her crush out on a date, and so suddenly at that. At the moment, she could only feel grateful. I'll hold off on my vengeance, I suppose? Man, she works fast. Naruto spoke up, his eyes wide. Sakura had wanted to keep this conversation completely professional, but she couldn't quite hold in her laugh at that one, giggling quietly to herself next to the boy. She was surprised at how comfortable it felt to sit next to him, and she passed a minute or so just reorganizing her thoughts. When she felt confident enough to come out with them, she spoke. Naruto, I wanted to apologize to you. The boy looked at her, a bit stunned, and she waited as he swallowed down the noodles in his mouth so he could speak. I mean, thanks, but why? What? Did you not notice how mean I was to you? She was a bit surprised. She figured he wouldn't ever be able to forgive her for how she'd acted. Not really, his words shocked her, but he continued. I mean, you were always kinda mean, but no more than anyone else. He rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. I got used to all that stuff a while back, so it's no big deal. No more than anyone else? He got used to it? How could someone get used to something like that? Ino's friends barely excluded her, and even then she felt like an outsider, undesirable. The only thing that held her together was Ino, but without her, Sakura wasn't sure where she would have been. But to have no one, and to get used to not just that pain, but to have people constantly pushing you around, complaining about you, bullying you? They made sense, suddenly, the shopkeeper's words. Naruto masks how he feels with shouted words and feigned aggression. But really, deep down, I think he just used to be really lonely. It hurt to think that she'd contributed to that. That she'd done so willingly, purposefully, and maliciously. She'd make up for it. She had to. I've always been very rude to you, even if you never really noticed I was. She began where she felt she should, a straightforward confession of what she felt she'd done wrong. I found myself with no friends and wanting them. Making fun of you, joining them in that, seemed to be the easiest route to gaining them. Once again, Naruto seemed to be a bit stunned at her words. He looked away a second later and fiddled with his hands like he didn't quite know what to do with them. In the kitchens beyond them, the two chefs of Ichiraku were making themselves as scarce as possible, and she made a mental note to tip them for it later. And you didn't deserve any of that. Not the ridicule, or the yelling, or the laughing. She turned to face him fully, but he wasn't looking at her. And you don't deserve what the people here do to you either. Now he turned towards her, eyes wide, an expression a bit fearful. How do you know about that? She smiled sadly, unable to meet his eyes out of shame. I pass by here on my way home every day. She could barely get the words out, but she wouldn't run away, not when she'd come this far. I've seen what they do to you. And every day I just let it happen. Naruto looked distressed, his hands still fidgeting around on his lap. He opened his mouth to comment, but whatever it was died on his tongue as he tried to vocalize it. I used to think that you deserved it. She felt hot and disgusting. She felt like she was a mess, like she wanted to curl up into a ball and shrink until she didn't exist anymore, but she kept going. I thought that because you were loud, or you annoyed me, or that my friends didn't like you, that you deserved to get drinks poured on you, or yelled at in the street, or smacked by shop owners. Her face felt hot, and she realized with some surprise that she was crying. I treated you like some monster. The tears weren't subtle, and her voice was shaking. She felt like a monster now. Faced with the weight of what she'd done, all she could do was try not to cry. I'm sorry, Naruto. She wiped at her eyes, trying to keep more tears from falling. I'm so sorry. She couldn't see the boy in front of her, not through the tears that continued to well up, but she felt it as he reached forward and took one of her hands in his. She gasped slightly, opening her watery eyes to look towards him. He was pointedly avoiding meeting her eyes, instead turning his head to look towards the counter as he held her hand in his. It's warm. I'm not very good at this. He spoke quietly, gentler than she had ever heard him. I'm sorry. Why? Why are you apologizing? It wasn't fair that someone like him, someone so warm and nice, had been treated like trash, ground into the dirt with such extreme prejudice. He squeezed her hand, and looked towards her, doing his best to give her that same smile she saw him wear day in and day out. It was hollow, so very empty. Maybe it had always been. Thank you, Sakura. Something within her broke at that, and a choked sob escaped her. She had tried her best not to cry, not to embarrass herself. She'd wanted to apologize in a way that left everything settled, left her with no baggage and a new friend. She'd failed at all of it. Another cry racked her small form, and she allowed the tears to flow freely, the dam inside her having burst open. She sobbed loudly, turning towards the counter and resting her head on her left arm. Naruto's hand never left her right, though. Even as the minutes passed them by, and the sun behind them fell from the sky, he didn't let go. It wasn't for a while that Sakura spoke again. Hey, Naruto? He looked back towards her, having released her hand only when she told him she was feeling better. Yeah? She gave him as full a smile as she could manage, but it had probably still come out a bit watery. Thank you? Really? Naruto blushed, and he smiled embarrassedly. Don't worry about it, I was just trying to be a good friend. A good friend, huh? Something about how the whole scenario had played out had her snickering slightly, and then, like a rushing torrent, she was giggling madly. What? Naruto looked surprised, even if he was subconsciously smiling already. What's so funny? She couldn't answer, even if she wished she could. She was laughing far too hard to focus on anything at all, really. It was freeing, after she'd cried harder than she ever had in her life. Now she was laughing wildly, completely out of control. And nothing, she barely choked out past her fits of giggles. Just friends, huh? Naruto seemed confused. Well, yeah, he scratched his chin. I mean, after all that, we've gotta be friends, right? And once again she found him able to crack her up at the slightest provocation. How could I argue? She brought herself back under control. Against such infallible logic? Naruto seemed to think for a second. What's that word mean? Infallible? Yeah, that one. It means like, unbeatable, the best? She didn't feel like she'd done a very good job at explaining it. She just heard her mother and father use that phrase whenever she would argue about something with them. Oh. He nodded twice, seeming proud of himself. So, it's like the Hokage of words. She felt she could be forgiven for laughing that time. They caught up with Sasuke and Ino a while later, having talked as long as they could before Ichiraka closed for the night. It had been an oddly fulfilling experience, talking with Naruto. She'd let out her own demons, and finally felt that burden lift off of her. And yet, on its own, talking with Naruto had been fun. You should have seen him, Ino was giggling to herself, her hands holding a small bouquet of flowers. The shop owner was all, "Oh, good sir, would you like to buy anything for your girlfriend today?" She had her hands on her hips and was trying her best to give off a gruff, adult voice. And Sasuke got all confused, so he just went along with whatever the guy was saying. "You didn't try to stop him?" Sakura spoke accusingly, but even she couldn't hide the fact that she was a tad bit amused. "Why would I?" After all, she held up the flowers in her hands to Sakura, and to her surprise they smelled heavenly. "I got such a nice bouquet out of it." The boy in question was stood next to Ino with a massive blush on his face, though it was clearly not from any schoolyard crush, but more the embarrassment of not knowing how to handle a social situation. "Oh, Naruto, that reminds me." Her friend walked away from Sasuke, and now walked beside the boy in question, both of their smiles reminding Sakura of a sunny summer day. She wasn't sure if Ino really was that perceptive, or if she had just gotten lucky, but she had meant to drop back and talk to the black-haired boy, anyways, and felt there wouldn't be a better opportunity than now to do so. She walked over to Sasuke and smiled up at him, though this didn't seem to calm the boy's nerves. Perhaps he thought she'd start to tease him as well. "Thank you for letting me and Naruto talk, I appreciate it." The boy didn't say anything, but some of the blush did disappear from his face, and he nodded towards her. Oddly, she didn't faint, or even think about fainting, which Sakura thought was a fairly large improvement for only a few hours. "I was just trying to be a good friend." Sasuke spoke quietly, trying to keep his voice down so that Ino and Naruto, who were now conversing loudly in front of the two of them, wouldn't hear. She laughed quietly, a small sound that escaped her involuntarily. "You know, you and Naruto really are very alike." She said it absent-mindedly, gazing at the back of the blonde boy's head as he went on and on about something with Ino. "What?" Sasuke looked confused, and Sakura couldn't help but laugh at the boy's expense, watching as his face puckered up into a pout. "Nothing, nothing." Like I said, it was Naruto's voice, echoing back towards the two of them. "I'm going to be the Hokage." She wasn't deaf, she'd heard his rambling about becoming Hokage a few thousand times already, as had everyone else in their class. The boy never ceased to shout it out after he lost, or on the rare occasion that he'd win, and it never failed to get a mean-spirited laugh out of a few of her friends. But now that she'd seen him, truly seen him, and talked with him for the first time, she felt like the boy's words weren't nearly so funny anymore. "Hokage, huh?" I could see that. Despite herself, Sakura found herself smiling brightly, linking her hands behind her, and closing her eyes. She took in the evening air. It was chilly, refreshingly so. The four of them were walking beside the river that snaked through Konoha, and though there was no sunlight to reflect off the water, the very beginnings of moonlight did faintly echo on it. "Hey, Sasuke?" The boy seemed confused that she'd address him at all, and he turned with an inquisitive look on his face. "Yes? What's your dream?" The boy stiffened slightly, and for a moment he slowed down, letting her gain a few paces on him, before he caught back up to her, expression unreadable. "I don't know." He talked slowly, methodically, thinking about every word. "I'm assuming you've heard about the Uchiha?" Her parents had told her a few days after it happened that Sasuke's entire family had been killed by ninja, and that was why the boy hadn't come into school in a few days. They had also told her to try and be as kind as she could to the boy. She'd taken that and done her best, but looking back, cheering for him in spars, constantly bothering him with her questions during class, those kinds of things probably hadn't helped him. She felt she couldn't be blamed, though. She'd been trying her best to make the boy feel better. "Yeah, I heard. My dream, or I guess my goal," he paused a moment, putting his hands in his pockets, looking a lot more like the dark and brooding Sasuke she'd seen a few weeks ago, "is to avenge my clan, and carry on their name. To be an Avenger? That sounded about right. A lot of what Sasuke had done these past few months started to make sense, came into clearer focus. Or at least, that's what I thought I wanted. Now it was her turn to be surprised, and she looked up towards him. Did something change your mind? Sasuke didn't seem to know what to say to that, for he contemplated his answer for a few seconds. No, it didn't change my mind nor my goal. He looked towards the two kids walking ahead of them, both of them blonde and loud, but she had a feeling which one he was truly watching. He just showed me a different path. Sakura smiled softly, letting the next few minutes carry on in silence. That sounds like something he'd do. What about you? Sasuke spoke up a few minutes later, looking towards her with a curious expression on his face. What? My dream? Yeah, Sasuke gave her a small smile, and she felt butterflies dance in her stomach. Since I told you mine, after all? She gave a small breath of laughter and thought about what she wanted to say. It's not quite as grand as either of yours, she admitted with a small amount of sheepishness, unable to quite meet his eyes. That's fine. The boy chuckled, seeming more comfortable than she'd ever seen him. Oh, just say it, you big baby. I guess. I'd like to be a really strong ninja, she began, smiling softly as she gazed up at the night sky. The stars were out in full bloom, twinkling in the endless expanse. They seemed so terribly far away. I'd like to be respected, and to help a lot of people. She spoke honestly, trying to divulge her true feelings. And then... Yes? Her cheeks heated up, and she felt a bit embarrassed. I'd like to retire and be a mom, I guess. It wasn't something she made known, and honestly, it didn't feel like anyone could blame her for that. It was horrifying to come out and say it. Sasuke smiled widely, and she shrunk in on herself a bit. That sounds like a great dream. It wasn't just embarrassment that had her cheeks heating up now, and she shuffled from side to side with nerves. The boy beside her looked in front of them, to the blondes a fair distance away from, not stopping for a moment, too lost in their own conversation. Come on, we should catch up before they lose us. Sasuke nodded his head towards the two, and then made to take off running. Wait. He stopped a second later though, at her request. What is it? Sakura gazed up at the sky again, towards the stars that hung there, small lights suspended in perpetual darkness. They didn't seem to be quite so far away, now. She looked towards her friends, all three of them, and smiled brighter than she ever had before. Thank you? Chapter 4. 3 years later. In the Hokage's office, smoking a pipe and doing his best to unwind after a long and painful day of signing papers, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat silently. Although the day itself hadn't been amazing, and his back hurt like nobody's business, he couldn't help but smile as he basked in the evening air. He'd always loved nights like this one. No Anbu appearing to yell news at him, no troubles to worry about in the village, and no advisors hounding him about what to do with the Jinchuriki. Life was good. It was, perhaps, too quiet. It should have been the first sign that something was about to go horribly wrong. An Anbu appeared in front of him, and Hiruzen mentally prayed that whatever was going on, he had no need to become involved. Sir, there's trouble in the village. Okay, sure, that wasn't good for his evening's chances, but at least he could hope that Naruto wasn't. It's Naruto, he's stolen the scroll of sealings, sir. What's worse, he had help. Hiruzen took one last draw of his pipe, before, with a worldly sigh, he looked towards the Anbu in front of him. And who would that be, exactly? Okay, so we've got the scroll, now what? Naruto understood his friend's haste. They probably wouldn't have very long before the Hokage's guards noticed they'd taken it. Now, Naruto licked his lips, and unfurled the monstrous parchment before him, revealing symbols and descriptions of powerful techniques. I get to learn some killer new jutsu. Sasuke's hand fell onto his left shoulder. Naruto. His friend seemed calm, and to an outsider, Naruto imagined he would have come off as just that. Naruto could tell though, having hung out with Sasuke for over 3 years, that the boy was not amused. He swallowed nervously, trying to maintain eye contact. Yeah, Sasuke? The hand on his shoulder tightened. You told me that, what was it? Oh yes. Sasuke smiled, and Naruto didn't think there had ever been something so terrifying in all the world. Someone's after the scroll of seals. We have to go take it before they can get their grubby hands on it. Honestly, whose fault was it that Sasuke had believed that? They'd stolen the scroll easily enough, which should have been the tip-off for Naruto that something was probably up, and were able to sneak into the forests just beyond Konoha without much problem. The real issue he was running into was that the third Hokage could be crazily psychic sometimes and often caught Naruto even when he didn't leave a trail for his pranks. Still though, if he could keep Sasuke believing his lie for a little while longer, they could probably have the scroll back before anyone caught them, and thusly be able to deny it was them. It was a perfect plan. Or it would have been, if he had a clue what any of these jutsu were meant to do. There were roughly 10 jutsu in the scroll. One which caught his eye immediately was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. He had, to his and Sasuke's confusion, never been able to use the Clone Jutsu, despite his best efforts. But the others? Ultimate Death Jutsu, a Yang-type release, and what the hell was that anyways, that allowed the user to concentrate their chakra into a deadly wave in front of them. That sounded cool if you had like, 1,000,000 chakra. Naruto was pretty sure he had 500, at best. Somewhere within him, something laughed. That was weird. And hey, this jutsu was just another form of ultimate death, but this one was more focused on a single target. Why was this even sealed away? Anyways, it seemed like the kind of thing a powerful ninja could use, but why bother locking it up? Was every strong jutsu sealed away? Honestly, this whole thing was giving him a headache. He was just about to try and make the hand signs for the shadow clone, when a set of shuriken hit directly next to his leg, sinking into the dirt beside him. He felt most people would have been scared knowing they could have been killed mere moments ago. They probably wouldn't have looked to their friend and whispered, "See, someone was trying to take it." "Oh, you had no clue," the other boy whispered back. "I'll thank you to give me that scroll, Naruto." Sasuke gasped as the man who'd thrown the shuriken stepped into the moonlight, and his face was revealed. Naruto turned around, his eyes wide and found. Do I know you?" The man stiffened, and for a brief moment Naruto thought he looked offended. "It's me." There was a pregnant pause. "Mizuki." "Me." "Right, yeah. Mizuki." Sasuke looked towards Naruto, eyes narrowed. "Naruto, you do know who he is, right?" Naruto felt some sweat begin to form on his brow. "Oh, of course. He's Mizuki." "Naruto." "Why, yeah? What does Mizuki do, exactly?" A single droplet of sweat rolled down his forehead, resting on his cheek. He's, Sasuke sighed. "I knew you hadn't been paying attention in class." Naruto rounded on his friend, sputtering wildly. What has that got to do with anything?" "This man is one of our teachers," Sasuke shouted, looking exasperated. "Yes. Finally!" Mizuki shouted above them, seeming just as fed up as Sasuke. "All right," Naruto shouted, feeling a bit embarrassed. I get it. I'll pay more attention in class." That's really not what this is about." Mizuki spoke up, now furious. He drew the large shuriken on his back, and held it out in front of him, poised to strike. Naruto and Sasuke both looked back towards him, but it was Naruto who spoke first. "Okay, Mizuki, if that is your real name." "What do you mean if that is my real name?" Like I told my friend here, Naruto ignored the man entirely, instead beginning to pace in front of the scroll that he'd set down on the ground. "I already knew someone was going to try and steal this scroll tonight." That got Mizuki's attention, and the man's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffened. "How do you know about that?" I was bullshitting, really, Naruto thought, but apparently luck is trying to make up for all my missed birthdays. "I'm perceptive, Mizuki." Behind him, Sasuke stared at him like one would a puzzle. "You might have been able to fool everyone else," Sasuke's bullshit detector seemed to be going crazy. "But you can't fool me." Above him, Mizuki shivered, the shuriken in his hands shaking as the man fought to keep his fear in check. But I'm afraid I need to test my new jutsu, Mizuki, Naruto grinned, and he brought his hands in front of him to create the shadow clone sign. And you seem eager to volunteer. Mizuki whimpered. Sasuke groaned. So, we caught him trying to make off with the scroll, and then I used my super jutsu to beat him up and capture him. The Umbu didn't seem to believe him. No, that wasn't entirely accurate. It was more that they didn't want to accept that the boy in front of them, who had just stolen the scroll of seals right out from under their noses, was about to get away with it, too. Oh, and Sasuke helped. The boy in question sighed wearily. And why exactly an Umbu, one wearing a bird mask, spoke up. Are there about 50 shadow clones behind you? Naruto couldn't see the man's face, but he was pretty sure the guy wasn't amused. A jutsu that was sealed away in the scroll of seals, not meant to be learned by anyone below Jonin. So, it is just for high-rank jutsu. What? Nothing. Naruto shouted. He looked desperately around for Sasuke, and found him standing with his back against a tree, trying to stay as far away from this conversation as possible. Their eyes met, and Naruto mouthed, "Help me." Sasuke gave him a look that he was pretty sure meant, "You got yourself into this, get yourself out." Well, the thing is, Mizuki was a Jonin. Chunin, Sasuke coughed out from beside him. A Chunin-level ninja, so of course the two of us weren't able to compete against his super skills. Naruto explained. The Umbu in front of him looked down at Naruto's clothes, which had not a single nick or tear in them, and to Sasuke's, which looked much the same. Yes, it seems like you struggled heavily. Right. So anyways, there we are, fighting for our lives against one of the most powerful ninja the world's ever seen. Sasuke lowered his head to rest in his hands, gently massaging his skull. And Sasuke's just fainted after a stray shuriken almost hit him. The boy in question somehow managed to look even more annoyed than he had previously, which Naruto thought was probably an achievement. I'm at the end of my rope, Mizuki's closing in. He's got his Mega Shuriken drawn, and he's ready to strike. But then, Naruto paused for dramatic effect, ignoring that only one of the Umbu was still standing there listening, the rest having arrested Mizuki and taken him away, probably having seen a good excuse to leave. I saw the abandoned scroll of seals before me, and I looked into its contents for something that could save my life. So, you learned the shadow clone to protect yourself, then? The Umbu sighed before he picked up the scroll from before the two of them, and slung it around his back. I guess that's fine then. You guys can go, but we'll be dropping by to get your statements later once Mr. Yamanaka looks through his memories. Wait. Don't you want to hear the rest of my story? The Umbu looked back at him. Not particularly. And he flash-stepped away. Sheesh, what a jerk. He turned towards his friend, who had refrained from speaking in front of the Umbu. Am I right, Sasuke? The glare the boy fixed onto him had Naruto paling instantly. He could sense death itself in those eyes. So, I fainted when a shuriken nearly hit me, huh? Oh, Naruto laughed nervously. Did I say that? Hey, Naruto? He swallowed. Yeah, Sasuke? Want to spar with me for a little bit? No? Well, why not? After all, I'm just some scaredy cat who faints at the first sign of trouble. It's not like you'll have any problem defeating me. If one were to look at the record of their duels, they would find the score about 60-1. In Sasuke's favor. Because you're going to kill me. Kill you? No. Sasuke shook his head, an expression on his face that seemed appalled at the very notion. Naruto could tell he was faking it. That would be too kind. It was graduation day, and every single part of Naruto's body hurt. Sasuke wasn't very kind, Naruto thought, wincing as he tried in vain to move his left arm, which responded to him with dull ache and nothing more, not very kind at all. Even so, Naruto thought, looking down at the forehead protector in front of him, proudly bearing the symbol of the Leaf Village, and smiling brightly. I can't really be upset right now. He'd passed this morning, along with every other student in Irika's class. The teacher had, with some reluctance, taken the Shadow Clone Jutsu as an acceptable substitute. Shikamaru? Iruka-sensei called from the front of the room, eyes laser-focused. Here. The boy in question lazily waved a hand, though he continued to rest his head on his other arm, not bothering to look up. Get with it, Shikamaru, the teacher spoke up, not with his usual annoyed expression he had when dealing with the lazy child, but one of slight glee. I may put up with your actions, but I highly doubt your mother will. The boy went from half asleep to sitting ramrod straight in about half a second, and Naruto could actually hear his back crack, and he winced as Shikamaru tried to bite back a groan of pain. Parents are here today. It wasn't a happy thought, but it was still the truth. Almost everyone else in the class had at least one of their guardians waiting outside for their graduation from ninjas in training to genin. It was, after all, a once-in-a-lifetime occasion, and one many parents had taken the day off work or missions to attend. Naruto had no one, however. His parents, whoever they were, had gotten themselves killed somehow, and though Old Man Third had never once told him who they were, he had admitted that they both died on the day of his birth. Just his luck, to have killed the both of them. Maybe that was why everyone in the village hated him so much, because he was just bad luck. Although, at the very least. Sasuke? I'm not alone. Here. The boy had a few bruises along his cheeks, and a few more on his stomach that his outfit did a good job of hiding. Naruto grinned slightly when Sasuke put his hand down and immediately began to massage his left arm, hissing slightly as he touched the bruises. Yeah, I got some good licks in there too. He'd still lost, and quite definitively at that, but it felt good to see concrete proof of his progress. At the very beginning, when they first began to spar over 3 years ago, he'd been clumsy and easily knocked over, just plain terrible. He was glad to be able to look back and see just how bad he'd been, even if it did cause him to groan at just how dumb he'd acted back then. Naruto? Here. He stood at his name being called, raising his hand as far in the air as it would go, and smiling wildly. Iruka's face molded into a soft smile, before he affectionately added, "Sit down, Naruto." He did as asked, grumbling a little bit as a few people giggled to themselves. Iruka-sensei called out 2 or 3 more names, before he looked over all of them, face panning across the room. Well, here we are, all of you, our last day as student and teacher. Hey, wait, Naruto thought, as something funny began to happen with his eyes. We'll be having our most likely 2 awards in a second, but before we ended out on a high note, their teacher paused, as a small smile, that was perhaps just the slightest bit sad, appeared on his face. I'd just like to say a few words. Wait, no, Naruto thought, as something welled up behind his eyes, that's not cool. Iruka began to slowly pace a few feet from the front row, his eyes surveying all of the students in the classroom. Throughout our years here, I've gotten the opportunity to learn all about you all. We've had our bad times, our petty squabbles, and our darkest hours. He didn't so much as breathe in Sasuke's direction, but it was obvious from the way the room felt colder, even to him, that it was what their teacher had meant by it. But we've also had our good times, our achievements, and those who managed to excel beyond my wildest expectations. His eyes wandered towards Naruto, and he felt an immense pride hit him all at once, though it came with the growing of the feeling behind his eyes as well. They roamed over Sasuke too, and the black-haired boy couldn't help but shrink slightly as the attention in the room shifted to him. And now, here we are. He held his hands out, as if meaning to embrace them all. At the very end. A few sniffled at that, and Naruto was both surprised and appalled to find himself among them. If you take away one thing from your time as my students, I'd like it to be some grand dream. Perhaps you'd like to be a painter, or own a flower shop. He smiled at Ino, and the girl gave him a toothy grin in return. Perhaps you'll carry on your clan's name, whatever form that may take. Sasuke, Kiba, Shikamaru and Choji all sat a little taller in their seats, while Hinata seemed a bit smaller. Perhaps, even, he smiled nostalgically, looking straight at Naruto. You're aiming to become Hokage one day. That got most everyone laughing, but even that was sedated by the gargantuan feeling of time's passing. I'd love for you to carry these dreams with you, for your entire lives, and think about me every once in a while. He paused, clearing his throat, and then looked up at them all again, But if you don't have some grand dream, some terribly important goal you're working towards yet, then I'd at least like you to take with you some knowledge." A few of them groaned, expecting a final lecture, and Irika smiled knowingly, even if his eyes were watering a bit. "I'd like you all to know," every single student, even those normally inattentive, sat a little bit forward in their seats, perhaps subconsciously, "that I am so very proud of each and every one of you." "No!" Naruto shouted internally, tears beginning to run down his face. "Don't cry now. You were doing so well." Though judging from what he could hear, he wasn't the only one crying. Hell, even Sasuke was looking solemn. Now, Irika had paused for a bit to let his words sink in, and if, secretly, the man had shed a few tears of his own, well, they wouldn't judge him for it. I wanted to say this for the end so we could all leave on a high note. Their teacher brought out a paper from behind him, containing what looked to be a few questions, though since there seemed to be only the one copy, Naruto figured it wasn't homework. "It's time for us to award our classes most likely to's." A few kids managed to smile and sit up, though a couple were still crying into their hands, but being a bit quieter about it than before. "These will be awarded right now by class participation, so don't be afraid to shout out your answers, even if it goes against everything I've ever taught you." Now he had the rest of the class giggling as well, fully recovered from the impromptu crying session. First off, most eligible bachelor. A few names were screamed out, with those who did so blushing madly, but Irika didn't let it go on for more than a few seconds before he interjected. "Oh, what's that?" The teacher was clearly trying not to crack up at his own joke, but to no avail. "Mr. Irika? Why, you shouldn't have." Naruto himself laughed, along with everyone else, as the teacher awarded himself most eligible bachelor, and they continued onward. "Most likely to succeed?" A few voices shouted out a variety of names, but the girls could be a doozy when they all voted for one person, and a nearly unanimous shout of Sasuke erupted from Sakura and Ino's section of the classroom. The boy in question wilted slightly, but the smile on his face, not to mention the blushing cheeks, was hard to miss. "Most likely to fall asleep in class?" Shikamaru himself took the playful jab in stride, laughing along with everyone else as they pointed towards him. "Most likely to wear a dog as a hat?" Kiba let out a raucous laugh, Akamaru chirping on top of his head, as everyone pointed at him as well, enjoying the atmosphere. They went on like that for a while, the teacher making fun of them all in a way that had the whole class cracking up, until he arrived at the end of his list. And finally, Irika-sensei looked down at his paper, gave a small snicker, and then shouted out as loud as he could, "Most likely to become Hokage." He couldn't help but laugh, really, as every head in the classroom turned towards him, all smiling. There was Sakura, her short pink hair waving slightly as she giggled into her hand. Then Ino, the girl's best friend, giving him a look that reminded him vaguely of a sunny day. There was, of course, Sasuke, his best friend, giving him that small smirk that meant he was in a good mood, and the boy inclined his head towards him. Then there were other faces he knew less well, Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba. Hinata and Shino, along with so many others. He stood up, tied his forehead protector to the back of his head, and smiled as wide as he could, as everyone in the class took a breath at once. "Naruto!" they shouted in near-perfect unison. "You know it!" he yelled back. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, their teacher Irika, called out from the front of the room. "You three shall form Team 10. Sasuke stayed silent, along with everyone else, as the newly christened Team 10 made their way up to the front of the room, Ino grumbling not too quietly about how she was less than happy with her teammates. He had a feeling that would fade with time, given what the girl was like. Bubbly, happy, and most of all open to change. It was what made her so easy to get to know. Team 10 would probably be friends within a week. Besides, it wasn't like they didn't already know each other, from what Sasuke had seen. Though begrudgingly, the three did seem to hang out with each other's families a lot, and their formation, the Inoshikacho, was a cornerstone of the Leaf's military strength. "I hope we're on a team together," Naruto whispered to his left. The boy had been adamant about being together on a team for months now, ever since Iruka had explained how they were set up, and Sasuke had honestly heard enough about it to last a lifetime. Still though, he wasn't exactly the most social of people, so he too hoped he'd be on a team with Naruto. And if I'm lucky, Sasuke thought, looking towards the pink-haired girl in front of him, who was chewing nervously on her fingernail, I could get both. Though he kept his hopes up, the chances of him being able to get both of his friends on the same team struck him as a bit far-fetched. Next, Iruka called from the front of the room, the man's eyes roaming over to his own. Sasuke Uchiha. Well, moment of truth. Sakura Haruno. He pumped his fist in front of him. At the very least, he could start his tenure on his team with one friend, which was about one more than he thought he'd have. Still, he couldn't help but be a bit sad for Naruto, as the boy seemed to deflate slightly in his seat. The chances of him being their third member were. And Naruto Uzumaki. The boy in question turned to face him with an expression that mirrored the sun, and he shouted out, "Yeah. You three shall form Team 7. You will all wait in this room for your Jonin teacher to arrive after I have finished assigning teams." Next, the man proceeded to call off a few more teams, but honestly, Sasuke couldn't help but zone him out. He was on a team with Naruto and Sakura. It was more than he could have hoped for, given that they accounted for 2/3 of his entire list of friends. Still, if he was going to be stuck with teammates for the rest of his life, he had wanted them to be people he knew he'd get along with. By the time everyone else in the class left, and the three were alone, they all mirrored Naruto's expression. Well, Sakura spoke up, as she walked over to them and sat down in the row below Naruto and Sasuke, turning her chair to face them. That worked out better than expected. Hell yeah! I can't believe we all got on the same team together. Naruto, could you not scream directly into my ear? Sasuke spoke up, still hearing a small ringing in the back of his head. It's one of my favorite things to do though. The blonde boy pouted slightly, though the smile that broke through a few seconds later betrayed his true feelings. They talked for a while about this and that, and Sasuke was glad that he no longer passed out from exhaustion whenever he spoke for longer than 30 minutes. That had been a minor roadblock towards making friends, he'd discovered. Apparently it wasn't normal to ask if you could go to bed an hour into a sleepover. At 7 o'clock. As they droned on for quite a while, one thing came to the forefront of all of their minds. Naruto looked around, face perplexed, before he spoke up. Hey, where's our Jonin sensei? Kakashi sneezed violently, which did terrible things to the inside of a face mask. As he tried to avoid vomiting whilst picking out another, he idly realized that he probably should arrive to greet the team he'd been loaded with this year. Lord Third had been adamant about making him into an instructor, and while he was pretty sure the old man was crazy, he also wasn't about to go against his decisions. Kakashi respected him more than enough to go along with whatever weird plan he had for him. He finished getting dressed, brought his forehead protector down over Obito's left eye, and left his apartment. As he made his way to the academy, walking calmly through the half-full streets instead of gliding along the rooftops like he probably should have been, he thought about the kids he'd been given this time. Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki. They were interesting, to say the least, though some more than others. Minato's son. Kakashi tried to keep his thoughts from dwelling in that direction, if only to hold on to whatever was left of his sanity. He'd been given not just the son of his former mentor, but one of the last two remaining Uchiha, along with just a random girl, actually, which didn't seem very fair for her. He made his way into the academy, waved at the secretary, who was cute in a stuck-up kind of way, and padded towards Iruka's classroom. He was a bit later than he'd meant to be, by about an hour, but that was fine. If his students couldn't handle his being late, well, then their relationship wouldn't last very long, anyways. He opened the door and had two immediate thoughts. One, that the students in front of him seemed to be getting along rather well, discussing topics quite fervently. Kakashi had been given teams of friends before, but it wasn't like that made much of a difference. If they couldn't work well as a unit, then any advantage friendship could have given them was already null. And two, that there was a dusty eraser currently plummeting towards his head. He could have stopped it, thought about it too, But if this were the result of teamwork between the three of them, then he wanted to let it happen, to see their reactions. So, it was with some remorse that an eraser bonked him on the top of his head and spread dusty chalk into his hair. Minato's kid, who looked strikingly like the man in question, tried to hold in his laugh, along with the girl next to him, who must have been Sakura. The black-haired boy, Sasuke, didn't laugh, but Kakashi couldn't miss the small grin on the boy's face. Hey-sensei. Naruto spoke up, face a mess as he tried and failed to hold in his laughter. Naruto! Sakura hissed, trying to keep her voice down, though it was ineffective through her snickering. I told you not do that. What? Naruto had apparently never heard of stealth in his life, for he spoke freely, in a voice that might as well have been a yell. You gave me a thumbs up. Kakashi cleared his throat, finding himself slightly amused. So, the eraser was an act of teamwork? Then perhaps this could be interesting after all. Sakura had no idea what to make of their sensei as the four of them arrived on top of the academy's roof. It really wasn't a normal location for talking about one's life goals and aspirations, and she felt that deserved more attention, but apparently she was the crazy one. Things I like? Naruto scratched his chin, thinking long and hard about what he would say. I like Sasuke, and Sakura, and Ino. Oh, and Lord Third, and ramen. So many different kinds, like tonkatsu, and… Okay, Kakashi smartly interrupted before the boy could start a sermon about ramen, and he turned towards the resident Uchiha. Sasuke, how about you? The boy in question pondered the question, resting his head on one of his hands, looking a bit bored with the situation. I guess I like MNPH. What was that? Kakashi looked mildly amused, leaning towards the boy with an eyebrow raised. You trailed off at the end. Sasuke blushed. I said I liked my friends. Their sensei's smile was evident, even from behind the mask he always seemed to have on. What would he do if he sneezed? Sakura thought, morbidly intrigued. And do you have any dislikes? She snorted. Oh yeah, just a few. I don't like a lot of things, but I guess. I don't like hot and sunny days. I don't like sweet foods, and I don't like people very much, nor do I appreciate interacting with them. I don't like when people make fun of my friends for not doing anything wrong, and I don't like. Kakashi clapped his hands together. Okay, we'll cut that off there. How about dreams, goals? The air seemed to cool instantly, taking on a bitter edge. Sasuke always seemed to have that effect whenever his goal was brought up. It was like an entire side of himself, one that he kept locked away inside, was suddenly dredged up to the surface. Sakura hoped it never got loose. I wouldn't call it a dream, not really. It's more. I suppose an ambition would be a better word for it. I'm going to get revenge for the slaughter of my family, and then resurrect the Uchiha clan. The boy spoke the words purposefully, as he always did. It never failed to send a chill down her spine, and judging by the look on Naruto's face, he was having similar thoughts. They had learned very early on that Sasuke did not like having the Uchiha brought up in any regard. He had never really gotten over what happened to his clan, and Sakura thought that was more than fair. He hadn't obsessed over it either though, and that was important. Naruto kept the boy far too busy for him to go back to brooding as he had the first few months after his family's deaths. She couldn't imagine what Sasuke would have been like without Naruto's positive influence. Kakashi-sensei cleared his throat, and the pressure that had hung over the four of them dissipated somewhat. Sasuke breaking out of his own head a second later caused the pressure to disappear entirely. Well, the silver-haired man seemed to not quite know how to recover the situation, and instead gestured to her. How about you, Sakura? I guess I like my friends, specifically my best friend, Ino. She paused slightly to think of more things, and found herself drawing a blank. What exactly did she do all of the time? Was she really that boring? I guess I like to draw sometimes. That's nice, drawing is nice. Kakashi seemed desperate to grasp onto anything remotely normal between the three of them. How about dislikes? I don't really dislike anything in particular. I guess the people in the shopping district who are mean to Naruto. The boy in question shrunk slightly, cheeks aflame. But other than that, I don't know. Goals? I'd like to be a strong ninja, I think. She spoke loud enough for the three others to hear, but she couldn't help but be a bit nervous. That's really all. It wasn't, but she was too embarrassed to admit the rest. All right. Kakashi seemed to want to say a few things, probably thought about it as well, and yet came up empty. Well, you're each unique? He cleared his throat. We'll be having our first mission tomorrow. He walked to the edge of the building. Come to Training Ground 3 tomorrow at around, let's say 8 o'clock. Oh, and one more thing. He turned back towards the three of them, eyes glinting with barely concealed mirth. Make sure not to eat anything before tomorrow, the task ahead can be quite ugly. I wouldn't want any of you to be sick. He full laughed into his hand, turned and leapt off the building. The three remaining members of Team 7 said nothing as he left, and faced each other with complicated expressions. Huh. Naruto spoke, squinting his eyes and looking a bit confused. He was weird. Kakashi grumbled as he sat up out of his bed, looking for all the world a moving corpse. He felt that way sometimes, too. Still, today he had a job, even if it was one that he took a secret amount of enjoyment in. It was time to beat up some kids. And really, what could be more entertaining than that? By the time he arrived at the training ground, his three students looked ready to rip his throat out, which was good. They need that killing intent if they were planning on earning his respect, let alone taking a bell. Sensei. Sakura turned towards him first, spying him from a larger distance than he thought she'd be able to, which really should have been the first sign that today was going to go differently than he thought it would. You said to arrive at 8 o'clock? Yes, I did. Kakashi tried to mask his amusement, which he felt it should have been easier given that he was actually wearing a mask. It is nearly noon, Sensei. He wasn't sure if the girl in front of him realized, but her voice had a certain growl to it, like that of a feral animal. Well, sure, I said you three were to arrive at 8, I never said anything about when I'd arrive. Sakura's eye twitched, and he briefly thought she was going to attempt to kill him then and there, but the girl, through some godlike show of self-control, held back, and walked over to stand with her two friends, shooting him an intense glare the entire time. Alright, let's lay down some ground rules before we get into it. He took out the two bells he'd had in his back pocket, jingling them in front of his body, and drawing the team's attention once more. Your objective today is simple, you'll be attempting to steal these two bells from me. How you go about it is up to you. The two students who are able to take one from me will get lunch at 3 o'clock. If you are unable to secure a bell, you will be unable to eat. Also, if you do not secure a bell by the end of the test, you will. He sensed more than he heard a hand whizzing towards one of the bells and dodged to the left just in time for Naruto to go skyrocketing past him. Where the hell had he come from? Kakashi looked towards the boy and watched as he disappeared into a puff of white smoke. Wait, was that a shadow clone? Okay, so that was interesting. Time to get back on track with. He juked two shuriken, and a fireball that nearly managed to singe the front of his jacket. He looked towards where both had originated and saw that Sakura and Sasuke had launched a combined attack on him, looking quite satisfied with themselves. Oh, so you think this is funny, do you? As I was saying. 3 more Narutos charged out at him, kunai in hand, though they were hardly a threat. He took each on with minimalist movements, and watched as the 3 clones disappeared in puffs of smoke. He'd wanted to break out Ika and read a little, but it seemed this was going to require more of his attention than he'd initially thought. It was time to go on the offensive. These kids needed to learn that when the time came that they were faced with a superior opponent, they needed to be able to recognize that, and adapt to it. He rocketed towards his 3 students, and giving them enough time to notice his presence, and react to it, chopped Sasuke on the back of his neck, thinking him to be the strongest opponent. So imagine Kakashi's surprise when the Sasuke he'd attacked exploded into a puff of smoke, and the 2 remaining children merely smiled at him. Oh, Kakashi thought, feeling Sasuke's chakra behind him begin to charge up another fireball jutsu, and watching as the Sakura in front of him transformed into another Naruto. I shouldn't have given them 4 hours. Kakashi panted heavily as he sat down next to the 3 of his students, all of whom were collapsed on the ground, hands splayed at their sides. They hadn't managed to take a bell throughout the entire day, though not for lack of trying. At the same time, though, Kakashi noted, breathing heavily as he took out Ika Ika Paradise and began to read, I don't think I could fail them after that. He'd come into the day thinking that hunger would make them desperate, that he'd teach them the lesson that without teamwork, they stood no chance against him. They had, apparently, already known that. Kakashi laughed, more exhausted than he'd been in a long while. Defeating the three of them would have been easy, of course. He could have killed them in his sleep. But trying to avoid every single attack they threw at him, whilst never really being allowed to incapacitate or defeat them for the purpose of the test? That was slightly more difficult. And they had been relentless to boot. They were never down for more than 15 minutes, coming at him time and time again. What was worse, or for them, better, was that they had never attacked him without all three of them ready to strike, and when they had done techniques with only two, it had just been a diversion for the other member to try and take a bell. He was impressed, and for that, they'd earned his respect. Okay, you guys pass. Congratulations and everything. Sakura raised her hand in victory, though it fell half a second later, her being too exhausted to truly keep it there. Naruto let out a small whoop. But his voice cracked at least 3 times, and it was lacking any of his usual energy. Kakashi was fairly sure Sasuke had fallen asleep. Well, this has been eventful. I'll see you all tomorrow for our first mission. He stood up, dusted himself off, and Flash stepped away. He just missed Sakura mutter I hate him. In the Hokage's office, signing paperwork and trying to avoid talking with his advisors, Hiruzen Sarutobi sat silently. A knock struck against his door, and he let out a melancholy enter, knowing that he was about to have a very unwanted conversation with Danzo, and... It's me, sir. A ninja with silver hair knelt in front of him, and Hiruzen had to hide his smile at seeing someone he actually did want to talk to. Kakashi, what brings you here? The man in front of him raised his head, nodded once to show compliance, and began to speak. I wanted to let you know that Team 7 has passed my test. I will take them on as their Jonin sensei effective immediately. Now that was good news. He had expected those 3 to be different, and was delighted to hear that his prediction had proven correct. Though something about Kakashi's expression told him the ninja wasn't done. Is that all, Kakashi? No, sir, I had a question, actually. Speak, then. The scarecrow looked up at him, his eyes trying to read into Hiruzen's own, and seemed to find nothing there. Did you plan this? A small smile bloomed onto the Hokage's face. What are you talking about, Kakashi? Please explain. This team, it seems awfully similar in structure to 2 others I know of. Kakashi was looking towards the floor, but the Kage could see his brow furrow. It just doesn't strike me as a coincidence, sir. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat back in his chair. He placed one hand on his desk, and the other drew his pipe to his lips. As smoke billowed out of his mouth, he looked towards the ninja in front of him, and gave him a wry smile. Why, Kakashi, he spoke, eyes glinting with some unforeseen scheme. I'm certain I have no idea what you mean.